Wow. Elon Musk, he's going after him, folks. I've got to get to this. It's a lawsuit. So he's filing a lawsuit against the Biden administration over the DOJ's demand that SpaceX actually hire illegals. SpaceX, they've got all kinds of things, government contracts, and they want Elon Musk to hire illegals. So Elon Musk, SpaceX, they already filed this lawsuit. It was filed on Friday against the US government, and it's claiming that the DOJ case accusing the company of refusing to hire so-called refugees, asylum seekers, that actually violates the US Constitution. So I'm excited to dig more into that. Elon Musk going after the Biden administration and the DOJ. I also have to talk about this. And I know you're like, Kat, gosh, I hate hearing stories about these kids walking out of their schools because they're so sick of the woke bathroom policy. The kids don't like this. The kids don't like the LGBTQ agenda, this radical political agenda being shoved down their throats. They just want to do some math. They just want to do some reading. They just want to go to school, learn, and get out of there. I mean, that was me. I just want to go to school. I want to get my assignments done and I want to get out of there. I don't want to become a radical activist. It's not what I want to do. And now we've got these high school students in Pennsylvania walking out of their school because of their bathroom policy. And what the boys say, this young Chad who organized the walkout, I mean, what he has got to say is incredible. You won't want to miss it. An emerging scandal. Why are we giving $8 billion to the Chinese Communist Party? Or, well, a Chinese company with ties to the CCP. We are building this. What it really costs is $2 billion, but we're giving $8 billion. And Wire Points, they've got the exclusive on that. So I'm going to be chatting with them. Plus, the first criminal offender has been released on the Illinois no cash bail law, and you won't believe what she did. But joining me on the line to tackle it all, Wire Point's president, Ted Dabrowski. He's a frequent flyer. If you guys want to see me live in studio, that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We're going to be chatting with Ted Dabrowski. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Good morning. It's the Morning Buzz. Good morning, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kat. Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Well, we've got to talk about it. Let's start with this emerging scandal. You guys have an article up at wirepoints.org. And I mean, this Chinese Communist Party company, it's Glacier or Galatian? What
Goshen. Yeah,
Goshen.
Goshen.
That's what it
Goshen.
is. And what does the company do?
Well, so this is a Chinese company, and this is a whole part of this whole massive move to electric vehicles. And Goshen makes the batteries, these electric battery packs that go in the new autos. And so Governor Pritzker has been traveling around the world trying to help recover our overall manufacturing jobs problem that we have. We have a really bad jobs problem. So he's been out there trying to get somebody to come. He hasn't been able to get anybody to come, but he finally landed a EV battery maker. And so it sounds like good news. It's 2,600 new jobs is what they're announcing. They're announcing a $2 billion plant investment. And so it all sounds good until you start scratching beneath the surface and you find out, first of all, wait a minute. This is a Chinese company with deep ties to the CCP and to the military. And this is all documented. This is what we're uncovering. And a similar plant has been won in Michigan. There's been big grassroots pushback against that. Lots of questions being asked about who exactly is this and why are we doing this? But it goes further than that, Kat. We're going to get $8 billion in federal and Illinois subsidies to a plant that costs $2 billion. And so, whose tax dollars are these? And even if you like giving away money, why are we giving it away to the Chinese? How does that make any sense? And why are we supporting their technology efforts, their battery efforts, which are eventually military efforts? So it's a really tricky one. And Biden and nobody like that has asked any of those types of questions.
Yeah, well, and I like what you put here in the article. You talk about Janet Yellen and how they have been employing her in Congress. This is the House Select Committee. These are a couple of Republicans. There's nobody talking about this. There's no local politicians. And that's another thing too. I know that there's this big push for green energy or whatever the heck it is, and I'm sure you've heard of this Wolf pipeline, Navigator pipeline. They're carbon pipelines where they take sequestered carbon, and they're trying to take them from ethanol plants and shove it into the ground. I know it's very controversial. There's some people who absolutely love the idea. My concern is that there's nobody talking about that. There's nobody talking about this. This is a global effort to really push out this Green New Deal. But we've only got a couple of Republicans, and they wrote a letter. What was in the letter to Janet Yellen in Congress? Or did they write the letter to Janet Yellen?
So there's some Republicans out of Michigan, of course, where that plant is being done. There's a couple of ambassadors who've been very, very engaged in this. Ex-ambassadors from national international ambassadors who've been engaged in this. There's been some grassroots. There's Gallagher from Wisconsin. So there's pushback, and they're asking all the questions. Why haven't we done a true vetting of this? There's a special Form 800 which asks all these questions, and if done, would likely end up banning Goshen. Well, at least that's what we would think, banning Goshen from being able to invest in places like Michigan and Illinois. But it's not being done, and so luckily we have a few congressmen who are willing to push back and ask the questions. We have to see whether we can elevate this, and I think it's also the people knowing these things happen so fast, and they happen with very little due diligence. And Governor Pritzker is so hungry to get a plant. He was 0 for 18 in trying to get plants here. They're all going to Indiana and Georgia and other states, and we weren't winning anything. So, which is kind of scary that we end up winning the one that's from China with all this ununderstood investment.
Well, and I'm seeing here now, and this was just kind of updated, that Darren LaHood has finally come out and said something about this, and I know that he has concerns about China. He tells me all the time the biggest threat is China. He says, I've got serious concerns about Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Biden administration's active support for the CCP-backed companies.
Yeah, my colleague Mark Glenn has done a great job of just breaking this out. He sniffed this out at one point, saw it, and has really reached out to the entire national community trying to figure this out. And one of those groups he reached out to was Darren LaHood, and Darren was able to send us a note saying that he has serious concerns about it. He actually we actually included that in our piece. So I encourage people to go to wirepoints.org, and you'll see the stuff that Mark has largely written on this. But basically, he's expressed his concern, and he wants to make sure that Illinoisans know, the taxpayers know, and that Governor Pritzker is actually asked the questions. Tell us what was done here, what was negotiated, what do we know about the owner? Because first they made it sound like Goshen Inc. is it's got some Chinese ties, but it's headquartered in California. It's owned by Volkswagen. But if you start to peel back the onions, you're not quite sure about any of that. Other than we know it has the strong CCP ties, and that its leaders are very closely tied to the top brass in China.
Mm-hmm. And I know that it's a different issue, these carbon pipelines, but Illinois is the first state to really try to pull something like this off, where it's carbon sequestration, and they're taking carbon emissions from plants, factories, things like that, and they're taking it and they're shoving it down into the ground for storage. And I've seen Illinois, even here locally. I think it was Livingston County, Pontiac. The residents there were concerned about the solar plant, not farms, but industrial plants coming onto their farmland, and these solar companies are directly tied with the CCP, or indirectly tied with the CCP, because these Chinese companies have ties to the CCP, and any Chinese company, I'm sure, has ties to the CCP. because over there in China, the way they roll,
That's how it works, right?
that's how
That's
it works. You don't do business without government approval, and yeah, it's concerning. I do want to shift gears. Let's talk about the Safety Act. Something else happening in Illinois. We're talking with Ted Dabrowski from wirepoints.org. He's the president and the first criminal offender. So this is a woman, and you can't make this stuff up. Her name is Esmeralda Aguilar, and she's 24 years old. That's my age. Um, and she was charged with 4 felony counts of aggravated battery for pepper spraying 4 Chicago police officers. And it was during some sort of Mexican independence like festival or something. And she was arrested, released, sent home. She was the first one, the first criminal. So tell me, you know, what are going to be the repercussions of this, and do you know maybe a timeline of when we're going to, because right now everybody, our local McLean County board member, she's out there and she's championing the end of cash bail, and she says, oh, they said that it was going to be an apocalypse and that this was going to be like the purge. Of course, it's going to take some time, I think, to see the actual implications of letting criminals out and not keeping them in prison or keeping them in jail. Do you have like a guesstimate?
It's always hard to guess what's happening because, crimes happen in waves for all kinds of different reasons. So I like to say this, everything else equal, right? And just assuming all the other factors stay the same, it has to be more dangerous for people because the stated goal of Safety Act is to have fewer people behind bars. And you have to understand that, and this is a good example that you used of the woman with the pepper spray. They argue that we're going to let all these, like low-level offenses, nonviolent offenses, and that's a very confusing thing because if you look at what happens in a place like Chicago, if somebody breaks in and loots something, is that a low-level crime? Is that person who's willing to break in and steal? If you try to stop them, might they kill you? Right. And so it gets really tricky. And this guy, Rafael Mangual from the Manhattan Institute, just put out a piece on that. And it's, this whole thing of, nonviolent offenders. You look at a lot of the offenses that go on, particularly in Chicago. If you were to try to stop a lot of these people, if there's a woman who is willing to pepper spray policemen, what might she be willing to do to some ordinary person who's weak? And, that's really the question. And of course, this woman is out.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, and I hate to do this where, I it's not racial profiling, it's just true. Okay. So she was there for some sort of Mexican Independence Day. Is she a flight risk? Does she have family in Mexico? These kinds of things. I didn't dig into that story that much, but I would not be shocked if she has family ties in Mexico. And there is a clear, is she a flight risk question to be asked. If she does have family, like, is she going to show up? Like, what's going to go?
Yeah, and that adds more risk to the situation, right? If you walk up on somebody stealing your car, right? What might they do if you say something, right? So that's my big concern. And so what they've done with this new law is they've basically said some offenses are detainable and the rest aren't. And so, of course, if you know anything about Illinois progressives and if you know anything about what's happening with the whole decarceration, decriminalization move, their goal is to have fewer people behind bars awaiting trial and more of them out on the street. And so more of them out on the street means more risk for ordinary Illinoisans. And what's interesting about that is this whole equity thing about having people not wait in jail for their trial, especially dangerous people. Well, the problem is when those dangerous people are back out, guess who gets killed most of the time or who gets victimized?
The
It's blacks and Hispanics. So this whole equity argument that I argue is backwards. It's taking care of the criminals and punishing ordinary people. And that's my big problem. And, this whole bail thing is, this bail is important because it gave judges another round of discretion. Instead of saying, I can either put somebody behind bars or I can let them free. It says I can let them free, but have a big bail over their head so that they behave. And that, if mom and dad bail you out, guess what? They're going to be all over you, protecting their money and keeping you in check. Now that's gone. And
Yep.
so now a judge either says, I'm throwing you behind bars or I'm letting you out. And so it really bastardizes the whole ability for a judge to kind of find that middle ground between keeping somebody in jail or not.
Yeah, and well, we've seen Cook County. I've actually given the numbers out. 33% of pretrial defendants have committed crimes while out on pretrial or while awaiting trial, and it increased 33% crimes, and then violence or crimes increased 45%, and then violent crimes increased 33% in Cook County when they just did bail reform. That wasn't even completely eliminating cash bail. So
That's right.
we've already got the receipts here that this doesn't work, but we took it
Yeah.
statewide.
We ran some numbers on that, in Cook County, and like you said, they did the experiment just to let us know how bad it was going to be, and we know how bad it's going to be. So there, between 2017 when the bail reform started and 2022, I think it's mid 2022, there were 15,000 people who are out on bail who had committed some crime.
Wow.
Or not out on bail, but out, and then they committed another crime. 15,000 of them committed new crimes, and 3,000 of them were violent offenses, and almost 1,600 were gun-related offenses. So you're letting dangerous people back out, and that's what's flawed about all this.
Well, and then I love how Republicans, only a couple, have brought up the point that, hey, that bail money, we used to take that money, the fees that they would have to, like the actual money that they paid, and we would do victim restitution with it. We would actually give that money back to the victims through some programs, and we would put that money back into the jail. We would put that money back into, um, services for the inmates. And now it's like, are the coffers going to dry up? Like, what are we going to do with that bail money, or without that bail money?
Yeah, I think it's really problematic that in Illinois, we've still got a 30% increase this year in violent crimes in Chicago compared to last year. And so, we're about to hit all-time highs since 2019. I mean, we're about to hit highs since 2019. We're so far, we're getting farther and farther removed from George Floyd, from COVID. We have no more excuses for this. But instead of tamping down on crime, we're loosening things and we're making it easier for crime to happen. And the Safety Act feeds right into that. So it's a sad moment for Illinois. We're going to have to figure out how to unwind this law at some point because, our judges have lost its discretion. But it's a sad moment because crime continues to go up. Maybe it'll start to slow down nationally, and we'll be part of that wave. Murders are down a good bit, and that's good. But overall crimes, the robberies, the car thefts, they just continue. You know why? And we wrote about this recently. Because the chance of getting caught for a crime now in Chicago is getting close to zero. Literally zero. You can almost make a bet that if you do a crime, you're not going to get caught. And if you do get caught, guess what? You're not going to get punished.
Yeah, it's really so sad. And we got a couple of minutes left, and I do want to hit this with you just real quick, Ted. We're talking with Ted Dabrowski from wirepoints.org. Check it out. Now, I did some reporting here in our local community. The Bloomington Education Association, via the NEA and the IEA, I'm sure, sent out emails to D87, District 87 educators, including elementary and pre-K educators. So, I mean, these are young children, and they sent this out to the educators of these young children. They sent out an email, get this, Ted, that says they're required to not out the students' gender identities to others, including parents. And I'm not paraphrasing there. They've mentioned it a couple of times in that email. They said that, hey, per FERPA, they must protect the confidentiality of students. And I think that they're now, maybe you know more about FERPA than I do, Ted, and you can shed some light on this. The FERPA is like, I remember that. Do you want your parents when you're in college to have access to your grades or something like that? That's what FERPA is intended for. Do you want your parents to have access to your grades or something like that when you're in college? I think that they've used this and distorted FERPA to kind of put this confident, or to make teachers not tell parents when their kids are identifying as cat, dog, boy, girl, or going by a different name in the classroom.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I haven't dug into the actual Illinois law, and I think I looked at it, but I can't even remember right now. But the whole point of this is that, you know, who is the parent anymore? Who is in charge of their own kids? And this is the next step in the continued takeover of government, be it whether it be schools or you know, the state, over our children and what happens to our children. We're talking about young children whose minds aren't developed, who can have all kinds of problems, psychological problems, change, behavioral problems. It takes time to figure out who you are, what you are. And you know, here we have this all over the state where the school administrators are stepping in and saying, no, you know, if your kid starts to change his or her identity, we're not going to tell you unless the kid says we can. So, you know, puts the kids in charge in one way, but then eventually it's the, you know, the school district who won't tell parents. And that is just, you know, things flipped upside down. And, you know, it's the same thing we've seen on, you know, parent notification when it comes to abortion and things like that for underage people. So we've got a real mess on our hand and a real battle. And it's really going to be a grassroots movement to take this back, because it can't stay this way. They can't continue to take more and more power over our children.
Thanks for all the work you do, Ted Dabrowski. I appreciate you coming on to the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Folks, go check out Ted Dabrowski's Twitter page. Find him on Twitter, and then also go to wirepoints.org. Ted, have a great morning.
Thanks, Kat.
All right. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Elon Musk, this new lawsuit at the federal level, or he's going after the DOJ and the Biden administration for trying to say that he's doing something wrong by not hiring refugees, illegals, asylum seekers, whatever you want to say. He says that you can't force that on me. It's against the Constitution. I'll be back. If you're not here legally, you shouldn't be hired anywhere. Sorry, but laws are laws. If you have a work visa, maybe, but I'm sick and tired of laws not being followed by the state and by the Biden administration. That's a comment from Ryan on our YouTube channel. You can find me live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. It's real easy to find me. It's Cat Peterson 929. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today. We've got so much to get to, and I was telling you about Elon Musk, and this is a big deal because finally somebody's pushing back against the Biden administration. You can't just bully us. Okay, that's what Elon Musk is saying with this lawsuit. And he says, look, Elon Musk's SpaceX, they filed this lawsuit Friday against the US government. And what the lawsuit claims is that the DOJ case accusing the company of refusing to hire refugees and asylum seekers violates the US Constitution. So if you seek asylum, and this is where it's all very distorted because what the federal government has done is they've redefined what an asylum seeker is or what a refugee is. So if you are an asylum seeker, the rule and international law says that you have to seek asylum in the country that you are first in. Now, these people coming from Romania, Ukraine, all kinds of different places of the world. What needs to happen is they need to take a direct flight from Ukraine, Romania, or from a war-torn country. There has to be a direct threat to you in that country, or there has to be some sort of reason why you're leaving, and you apply for asylum in the country that you go to. So there is no middle stop. So a lot of times what these Romanian refugees, and I've seen them out on the street corner here in Bloomington, and I've talked with them, and that's how I know this happens. The Romanian refugee told me, or so-called refugee, they're not actually a refugee by they broke international law by coming here. So they went to Spain first, they got onto a flight, and then they came to the United States. Well, they should have sought asylum in Spain. Okay, so we've redefined what asylum seekers are, and you're not an asylum seeker or a refugee if you are going to a country first, saying, I don't want to seek asylum in this country. I want to get to the United States and seek asylum there. No, 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 no. That's breaking international law, and you should be denied asylum in the United States if you went to a different country other than the United States right from the get-go. The lawsuit here from Elon Musk says that the administrative judges who typically hear cases concerning employee bias against immigrants are not appropriately appointed, and that keeping the case out of the court denies SpaceX its constitutional right to a jury trial. So, what these administrative judges have been trying to say is that SpaceX has to hire these asylum seekers or that they are discriminating against asylees or refugees in the hiring process. And they filed a lawsuit back in August against SpaceX, claiming that. Now, that lawsuit alleges that SpaceX routinely discourages asylum seekers and refugees from applying and refuse to consider them because of their citizenship status, which they allege is in violation of this Immigration Nationality Act. So it was some sort of act that the Biden administration created out of thin air. The administrative hearing officer is appointed by the Justice Department, and we are to believe that he's an impartial judge. Okay, they have assigned this to a judge, and this is a administrative hearing officer. So this is a judge appointed by the Justice Department. So the people who are suing him, uh, they appoint the officer who's supposed to be hearing the case about the discrimination case. I'm sorry, but I don't think that he's going to be an impartial judge, considering that the DOJ actually appoints him. What a joke! What a joke! You're not going to fairly determine the merits of the complaint. So the DOJ complaining that this is, discrimination against asylees and refugees under this Immigration and Nationality Act. And for some odd reason, I don't understand why, They put the case with this administrative hearing officer who is appointed by the DOJ. Like, that's not going to be an impartial, determination of, they aren't going like, "What?" This is hilarious. When Elon Musk was asked why the company only hires Americans, he said, "I think people are a bit confused about this. Unfortunately, this is not up to us. The United States government regulations make getting a job in the United States hard enough as it is. But if you're working on rocket technology that's considered an advanced weapons technology, so even a normal work visa isn't sufficient unless you get a special permission from the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State." So I want to be clear. This is not some sort of desire of SpaceX to just hire people with green cards, right? So uh, this is not out of a desire of SpaceX to just hire people with green cards. So SpaceX is working on rocket technology that is advanced, and there's things in the law, there's regulations, government regulations already in place, where these people, if they want to work on, oh, I don't know, advanced weapons for the US government, they have to go through the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. The DOJ also said that SpaceX wrongly claimed that export control laws made it so where they can only hire US citizens and lawful permanent residents. Yeah. I like, you're working on rockets and advanced weapons. You have to be a United States citizen in order to work. I can't even. The DOJ, I think that this is not a wise policy for the United States because there are so many talented people all around the world that would love to have worked at our company, but unless they can somehow get a green card, we're legally prevented from hiring anyone. So Elon Musk is actually taking the leftist side here. He's saying like, "Hey, I'd love to hire them, but your own laws say we can't hire him. I wish we could do more, but our hands are tied." So I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look at. But I knew this is against the law. It's against the United States Constitution as well. To have to have people who are illegally here working on weapons of mass destruction, like advanced weapons for the United States military. That's what SpaceX does. So I would assume it's already extremely difficult to conduct a background investigation on a refugee, if not impossible. Okay. So export control laws are meant to prevent advanced technical data from falling into the hands of adversaries or dangerous foreign governments. So we have export control laws. What if those refugees or migrants are from hostile countries, like, I don't know, China? Okay. And are we supposed to know what their intentions are? There's a reason why export control laws exist. I like the export control laws. Elon Musk says he doesn't like them and that his hands are tied. As a company, they can't allow illegal immigrants to work on US government advanced weapons technology. Uh, and I would imagine that it's pretty difficult to conduct, I'm sure the background check for anybody, for an American to get a job at SpaceX is pretty extensive. And I would imagine it's pretty hard to do some sort of background investigation on a refugee, considering you don't know anything about them. They can lie. I mean, there's nothing. This is probably impossible to conduct a background check on a refugee. The Justice Department is really claiming that because SpaceX attempted to prevent certain technologies from getting into the hands of U.S. adversaries, it violated federal law. What a clown show! Like, the Justice Department is really claiming um, that because SpaceX attempted to prevent certain technologies from getting into the hands of US adversaries, it violated federal law. Like, no, they were following the law. You were preventing technologies from getting into the hands of people that we don't know their intentions. Okay. They could be foreign adversaries. Um, I mean, this is a clown show. It was the Biden administration who opened the doors for literally everyone And now they want to force SpaceX to hire unvetted refugees. How does that make any sense? Oh, wait, it doesn't. Nothing in this administration makes sense. It's America last and migrants or illegal immigrants first with Sleepy Joe. Okay. America will always be last when it comes to this issue. All right. I do have to take a quick break. When we come back, you can go ahead and come to the stream, go to the stream. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I'm going to continue talking and chatting with people in the chat. Uh, and then when we come back, I've got so much. There's actually a high school that staged a walkout due to the bathroom policies. It's in Pennsylvania, but I mean, what this guy says on Fox News is incredible. This young Chad who organized the walkout. And I mean, you are going it's gonna put a smile on your face. I'm gonna be right back. This is The Morning Buzz. Hey, folks, welcome to the live stream, Don Reentz. One should need to be United States citizens to be a police officer as well. Hope the feds don't sue on that area. Yeah, so you're talking about, of course, and Don Reentz. Big shout out to Don Reentz for bringing this up. He actually ran against Dennis Tipsworth. This was a very crowded primary. I don't even think that there was an opponent, a Democrat opponent in this district. It's drawn for a Republican. Dennis Tipsworth is my state representative, and I was very upset that he not only voted, but he co sponsored a bill where we now are allowing non-citizens, police officer to become police officers in the state of Illinois, which is a violation of federal law, from what I understand. Chapin Rose, he talked about that on the Senate floor in the state of Illinois. Um, One thing about the 14th Amendment, and I've talked about this before, it talks about how you don't get citizenship when you're just born here. Okay, so um, the thing that Donald Trump actually is really pushed for is, hey, if you're born here, that shouldn't grant you automatic citizenship. So the way the 14th Amendment reads, you have to have some sort of ties or allegiance to the United States. And it just can't be that you're born here. So a lot of things that are happening now, these people will be coming in and they will have their children here. And then we think that they're citizens because they're born here. That's not the way the 14th Amendment reads. You have to have some sort of uh, uh, like allegiance to the country, and whether that be family members who are also born here or you can't have two illegal parents. You have to have one legal parent, at least here in the United States, that was born in the United States. You can't have both parents be from a foreign country. So the 14th Amendment has been taken out of context and totally distorted. So to me, if you have to have some sort of allegiance to this country to even be a citizen, right? There's a higher criteria to being a citizen of the United States rather than just being born here. Okay, there's even a higher criteria. You have to have some sort of allegiance here, meaning you have to have family here, um, and you have to have family that are also born here in the United States. To me, if that's the criteria of becoming a US citizen, then the criteria for being a police officer or working on advanced technologies for our US military, I feel like that criteria should even be more. Okay. Not only should you have allegiance here to this country, but you should also have been in this country for a period of time. That's my personal belief. Um, you should have been in this country um, for generations. That's my opinion. Police officers, right? They have access to things are um, that are crucial to our national security. They have access to databases. They have access to all kinds of things, and we cannot risk our national security by allowing somebody to become a police officer having access to all of that information and then taking that information back to their homeland. So that's why the 14th Amendment is written the way it is, hey, if I've got mom or dad back in the United or back in Mexico, okay, then I have no allegiance to this country, then I'm going to take, say I'm a police officer and, I was even born here. Okay. I was born here in the United States. That doesn't make you a US citizen. Just because you were born here in the United States, you have to have at least one parent who was also born here in the United States. Um, so that way you have an allegiance to this country. Uh, but they can take that information and run back home. What's to stop them from running back home to their parents where they reside and where they were born? So we should be actively trying to prevent things like, oh, I don't know, our foreign adversaries getting their hands on advanced weapons. And that's what Elon Musk was doing. But the DOJ said that he broke federal law because he was trying to prevent that sort of thing from happening. John Rance. He's in the YouTube chat. You guys can also be in the YouTube chat by going to Cat Peterson 929 on YouTube. Be a part of the show. It's the morning buzz, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. We've covered a lot. We've covered a lot of ground, folks. One thing that I do want to get to again, we touched on it with Ted Dabrowski from Wire Points. This is a scandal. We're giving $8 billion to a Chinese company with CCP ties, and we're giving them $8 billion to build a $2 billion Illinois battery factory. So we're going to talk about this Green New Deal push, this green energy deal push. And I'm concerned that we don't have more Republican or even Democrats. We don't have anybody talking about, hey, we're building this battery factory in Illinois. Hey, we're digging into the ground and there's going to be a carbon pipeline that runs from Iowa all the way through Illinois. Nobody's talking about this kind of stuff. And this is clear that JB Pritzker is in bed with the globalists, and he is determined to make Illinois a catalyst or the place to push this globalist agenda where we sell out to the CCP. So we'll talk about it. It's an emerging scandal. Also want to talk about that first criminal offender who was released on Illinois no cash bail law. There is this amazing story where this woman actually pepper sprays 4 Chicago police officers, and she was released the next day. She was told, "Yeah, go home." Hundreds of students from the Perkiomen Valley School District in Pennsylvania. It's a school district in Pennsylvania. Hundreds of them walked out of class on Friday. So they staged a walkout. They were protesting the district's new bathroom rules that lets boys use the girls' bathroom if those boys say that they're girls. It's never the other way around. Girls never say that they're boys and then want to go use the boys' bathroom. It's always the boys who want to go use the girls' bathroom. Presumably, girls saying they're boys would be allowed to use the boys' bathroom, but and much like it comes to a lack of stories of girls dominating in boys' sports, you don't hear about that as much because it doesn't happen. Girls don't go into boys' bathrooms. Girls don't claim that they're boys and want to go into the boys' bathroom. So this young guy, he was on Fox News, and he told Fox News, and I'm quoting him here, kids were upset. The girls, we wanted to protect them. They were upset, and they didn't want men in their bathroom. This is what a young high schooler said. His name is John Yacht, and he said this on Fox News. I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to continue this story plus a few others. One thing that I wanted to get to today as well. David Paul Blumenshine applying for this County Board District 5 seat. I've got to take care on this because one thing happened at the McLean County Board meeting that when underneath everybody's not like it, this was not transparent at the McLean County Board meeting, and this is just a small example of, hey, here's your government not including you in on the process. And I'm excited for David Paul Blumenshine. He's a Cities 92.9 radio host. He submit his application to become the next County Board District 5 member. And I think that it's time that we have a county board member who's willing to involve people in the government process, and not only involve, but teach. So I'm going to be right back. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for joining me. We are going to be talking about David Paul Blumenshine and that county board district seat. He submitted this application to it. Now, look, I love John McIntyre, not trying to rip on John McIntyre at all. The guy was old. He should not have been serving in government that long, okay? To me, you should serve about 2 4 years. I'm all for term limits in any kind of capacity. 2 4 years, you should serve one, maybe 2 terms, and then you should be out of there. Making a career out of politics is dangerous, and we've seen what happens in the state of Illinois when you do that. I mean, I've seen Patrick Joyce, he's a Democrat, and he's up in my hometown, and he serves as a senator in the 40th district. He actually inherited that seat from his family. So his daddy held the seat for 20 plus years, I think it was, and then he gave it to his wife as a gift. And I'm not exaggerating. He literally said, "This is a thank you to you for all of your love and support over the years." Said that to his wife. So in Illinois, we have a huge problem with term limits and people making careers out of public service and out of politics. And I'm not saying John McIntyre did that. However, I am saying that there should have been term limits. There's no reason why we should be in a position where there is a county board uh, vacancy, District 5 vacancy very shortly after an election. But there is, and that's where we're at right now. And I think the only way we can reconcile that is by putting somebody in there who inspires young people, younger generations, to fill these county board districts, because that's what it's all about. Okay. Government, politics, it's all about teaching the younger generation and leaving that office better than what you found it. And really, we're doing everything for the children. That should always be at the top of the mind of a government official. That should be the purpose of government, is to not only protect its citizens, but restrain evil and be thinking about the generations uh, after them. Be thinking about the younger generations. And one thing that I can say about David Paul Blumenthal, even before I got the job here, when he was on the campaign trail with Dan Brady, I was just drawn to his campaign because he was so willing to teach me. I remember when I was an NPR journalist and employee, where he sat down, did an interview with us, and I was just shocked by everything that he was telling me about how government worked and things like that. And he made it to where you were not only informed about the governmental process, but you participated in the governmental process. And I think that he's really the only person who could fill that seat that really encourages young people to be more involved in the governmental process. Um, and I couldn't think of anybody better to fill that District 5 seat because of the way that it became vacant. Uh, and the only answer would be to put somebody in there who is going to inspire. Now, David Paul, he's in his, well, he's 60s. He just turned 60. Um, but he has this way of encouraging youth to run for office. He was very instrumental in the Desi Anderson campaign. He actually encouraged Kev Ferris, who is an ISU Republican, to get a radio show. And I know that Kev can attest to, his inspiration that he's had in his life, in my life, right? I got involved in politics. I didn't care about politics until I met David Paul at a debate with Dan Brady, and then my jaw just dropped, and I just knew right away. I was like, that guy's a career politician, and this guy's really trying to help the community here. So I'm excited to chat about it. We'll be right back. Hold on. Oh, hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and you won't believe it. Massachusetts, their governor is demanding that you do not buy single-use plastic bottles. Yes, so they are putting a ban on buying single-use plastic bottles. I actually don't have a water bottle on me this morning, but I'm sure that you drink water bottles, single-use plastic water bottles. They are putting a ban on it in Massachusetts. My jaw dropped. What? Missouri high school, they have crowned a male homecoming queen. Yes, the patriarchy strikes again as men continue to take more things from women. All of this and more ahead in the 7 o'clock hour. Yo, if you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. I'm going to be right back. Just got to go grab some quick coffee and a single-use water bottle because, yeah, I'm not going to stop using single-use water bottles. You guys are crazy for banning them, Massachusetts. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we're going to be right back talking about Missouri High School crowning this male homecoming queen again. So it's not just one homecoming queen that they crowned, it's two. Yes, the patriarchy has struck again. Men continue to take more things from women as this high school in Kansas City, Missouri crushes the lifelong dreams of girls who have always wanted to become homecoming queen. Right? So this is an Oak Park High School. And yeah, it's not just one, but it's two males that they've awarded this homecoming queen status to. And it's really quite sad. And I'll tell you with the whereabouts of the former male homecoming queen. Um, Actually, he says he's a Chicago based drag queen. So we'll be right back. Oh boy. Yes, this emerging scandal. Why are we giving $8 billion to a Chinese company with ties to the CCP to build a $2 billion Illinois battery factory? Yes, of course, this has to deal with the Green New Deal, the green energy, and JB is out there. I mean, we've got all kinds of subsidies going to, I mean, whose money is that? Is it my money? Is it your money? Yes, of course it is. We're giving $8 billion. All it's going to take is $2 billion to build the factory, but we're giving them $8 billion. And this is a Chinese company with ties to the CCP. I mean, come on. What? We're going to be chatting about that a little bit. Before we took the break, I was telling you about this walkout in Pennsylvania. It was at this little high school, and they walked out of class on Friday. As always, you guys can see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. That would really help me out, folks, if you subscribe to the channel. And then also you can text me at 309-451-9299. We got a lot of things to get to today, but first, Jesus is King. I've got my Jesus is King shirt in studio. Got that from rootedapparelco.com. If you go there and you type in the promo code CAT, CAT, at checkout, then you're going to get 20% off. It's so important that we share the gospel and we have gospel conversations and really biblical conversations with not only strangers, but your politicians. Freedom, it's not freedom of worship. Okay. You're not confined to the four walls of your church. You have freedom of religion. And part of that is by putting on a t-shirt and walking into Walmart and your t-shirt says Jesus. Be bold. Be bold. The Bible tells us to be bold, and you can do that by wearing some Christian apparel from rootedapparelco.com. All right, I do want to get into this story. It's high schoolers, they're walking out. It's the Perkiomen Valley School District, Perkiomen. And they were protesting the school bathroom rules that let boys use the girls' bathrooms. It's never the other way around where girls want to use the boys' bathroom. It's the same. It's one and the same where they never really want to. Girls never want to dominate in boys' sports. You never hear about girls dominating in boys' sports because they can't biologically. There's just. I mean, maybe you'll find an example, maybe two examples of girls dominating in male sports, but I highly doubt it. I know this because you guys know that I'm a twin. I grew up with somebody my exact same age, and every single time he beats me in sports. It doesn't matter how hard I train. I run every single day. My brother does not, and he is significantly bigger than I am. Probably twice my size, big guy. And he runs and he can run so much faster than I can. So I've seen this growing up. If you really want to see the difference between boys and girls, just ask my mom. She grew up with twins, a boy and a girl twin, and she got to see our development all the way from birth to and where we are at today. We are so different, it's not even funny. But I will never be able to beat my brother in any kind of athletic ability or athletic activity at all, like ever. But this young guy, he organized this walkout. His name is John Yacht, and he was talking with Fox News, and it was just so incredible what he was saying about saying about the girls. And I mean, we need more guys like him. We need more kids like him. I mean, the chivalry isn't dead. Okay. I do want to play this here for you. You can see it in studio. Let's take a listen to John Yacht. He's one of the, or well, he was the organizer of this walkout in Pennsylvania at this high school. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
I mean, kids were upset. They didn't like girls. We want to protect them. They were upset. They didn't want men in their bathroom.
Okay. This all started really after a daughter told her dad that she went to the bathroom, thought there was a male in there. When that dad complained, the district said she could use a single user bathroom if she was uncomfortable. Brandon, what is your reaction to the district's response? Brandon, can you hear me?
Oh, Brandon.
Yeah, so there we had it on Fox and Friends. They were all there. The students were all there, and we had John, who organized the protest. He said this, and I'm quoting: "Kids were upset. The girls, we wanted to protect them. They were upset. They didn't want the men using their bathroom." This isn't the first time the Perkiomen Valley School District has seen a student walkout this year. In April, there was a much smaller group of students, not hundreds, but a smaller group of students that walked out in protest of the school removing pornography from the school library. So I've seen it. I've seen it in the schools. I've seen it on the checkout. You can FOIA for what the kids check out at the district libraries. I've seen genderqueer checked out. I've actually walked into the Bloomington Public Library, saw the pornography in the children's section. Somebody should have got fired for that, but they didn't. Somebody honestly should have been charged, but they didn't. We did wind up doing a story about the Hayworth School District where this Hayworth teacher involuntarily resigned because she actually provided a pornographic film. It was called Money Shot, Pornhub documentary, and she provided that as classroom materials to her students, and she had to involuntarily resign. So, I mean, this happens. This happens in your community. Okay, so with this high school, they were sick of this the pornography in the school library, and it spurred up a conversation or a protest in a small group of students. But then you've started to boil the frog a little too much, because now we've got hundreds of students now upset, and they have staged this walkout of hundreds of students now. So this is they're not stopping. They're not listening to the kids. The kids don't want this. The issue started over this father's Facebook post when his daughter came home upset catching a boy using the girls' bathroom. This is a controversial policy, as the media will call it. It's called Policy 720, and it was proposed. Yes, it's a school policy. And according to the media, it's of course controversial to have a policy where students are required to use the bathrooms that align with their biological sex. Huh? Didn't realize that was controversial nowadays, but it is. Policy 720 was rejected because a noun and a verb, and the noun and the verb is "you're a transphobe." Okay, so this was 720 was, hey, let's enshrine it to where we use the biological sex bathrooms. We use the bathrooms that align with our biological sex. It was rejected by the school board, I'd imagine. And here it is: the students exercising their First Amendment right. They don't have to put up with this stuff. You don't have to put up with it. If you're a kid listening on your way to school this morning with mom and dad, you don't have to put up with it. If something makes you uncomfortable, you need to tell mom and dad. And one would think that schools would be the one place where parents would assume that their daughters would be safe. Yet time after time after time, we see that that's not the case. They are not safe there. And if your daughter has a problem with a dude being in a bathroom with her, you're told that your daughter is the one with the problem. teens are forced to address the matter themselves. In fact, I've actually got this video here I'm going to share with you. It's about the YMCA. There's like this really weird coordinated effort by the YMCA to implement this bathroom policy. This teenager, she's 17. She actually broke down crying, addressing the YMCA. And I mean, she very boldly said, "Look, this needs to stop." And then she broke down in tears because she was begging the adults to act like adults and do something. Huh? Who would have thought? Uh, these kids want the adults to do something about this. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
I immediately went back into the shower, terrified, and hid behind their flimsy excuse for a curtain until he was gone. I ran into a bathroom stall to change as quickly as I could, organizing my thoughts to share with the people at the front desk. As I did so, I could only think of my 5-year-old sister, who I bring to this gym during the summer to enjoy their water slides. This is the YMCA, where hundreds of children spend their summer afternoons in childcare camps. This is the YMCA where my little sister took gymnastics lessons. The locker room was supposed to be her safe haven to gossip with her friends and shower and change. When I asked the YMCA management what their policy was regarding transgenders, they confirmed that the man that I saw was indeed allowed to shower wherever he pleased. As long as you are not a red flag on Megan's Law, the California Sex Offender Registry, a grown male can shower alongside a teenage girl at your YMCA location here in Santee.
There you have it. So she was begging. She's 17 years old, and she's begging the adults to act like adults. Shifting gears, Massachusetts. Rather than focus on the state's drug crisis, Massachusetts has a huge drug crisis. The governor there has decided to really prioritize her time. Maura Healey is her name. She prioritized her time, and she's fighting the invisible enemy instead. She announced her latest battle in the left wing's war on plastic. So instead of focusing on the drug crisis, literal zombies, like they look like literal zombies walking around high on fentanyl, she decided that plastic is public enemy number one. So she announced at the Clinton Global Initiative this past Monday that she's going to be banning state agencies from purchasing single-use plastic bottles in an effort to save the world from climate change. Yes. So here's a direct quote from her. "We know that plastic waste, plastic production are among the leading threats to our oceans, our climate, and environmental justice. In government, we have an obligation. We also have an opportunity to not only stop contributing to this damage, but chart a better path forward." She goes on, she says, "In our coastal state, we know climate change is our biggest threat. We also believe that taking action is our greatest opportunity, an opportunity to secure a safe and prosperous, sustainable future." That's what she says. Okay, so remember when leftists said that if we don't stop using plastic straws, then humanity will cease to exist? Well, that didn't work out as as well as they had thought, and as they are actually worse for the environment and our health. Okay, so they are way worse for our environment and for our health. Okay, the leftists are. And if you really want to talk about climate change, let's talk about the mask, because a plastic straw, it's like life. I think that it doesn't decompose in, like, I don't know, 20, 40 years or something like that, a plastic straw. When you talk about masks, it's like 400 years. So it takes so much longer for the mask to decompose. But these are yet the same people who advocate for mask mandates. They know that these masks are going to make it into the oceans. They know that the masks are going to be littered. But they don't care. They don't speak out against the masks. We should be banning masks if we really care about the environment, because they actually are much worse for the environment in that they don't decompose at all. I mean, it's like 400 years. I don't know the years on the plastic straw. I just know that the mask is more at 400 years. Something tells me that they didn't think this one through. I'm just going to be honest. They did not think this through. They tried to say that the plastic straws were going to end humanity. Now they're trying to say that the single-use water bottle is going to end humanity. The governor claims that plastic is one of the biggest threats to our ocean, but I don't understand how a ban on plastic bottles will do anything from stopping plastic pollution in the ocean, since the state already has laws against littering. Okay, so what does the ban like? You already have laws against littering. Okay, what does the ban do more than what shouldn't be happening? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should enforce your your littering laws. Okay, there's laws against littering in Massachusetts. Um, how would more regulations prevent littering in the ocean? I just don't know. Globally, only about 3% of plastic waste enters the ocean, and that's global plastic waste. I'm choosing my words very carefully here. 3% of plastic waste enters the ocean. It's safe to assume that Massachusetts is hardly a contributor to that, especially when you look at plastic water. When you just take a look at plastic water bottles, so that's plastic waste. Okay, all plastic. 3% of it globally enters our oceans. And then when you take it down even further, you're talking about 0.1122% of plastic water bottles making it into our oceans globally, let alone the Massachusetts waters. But what's the point of all of this besides virtue signaling and lecturing everyone? Really, what is the point? I'd love for her to talk about the migrant crisis. I'd love for her to talk about in her state. She declared a state of emergency due to the influx of migrants who took over the state. If she really wants to fight plastic pollution, she would be fighting illegal immigration. She should be fighting illegal immigration instead. She, but she's really dead set on fighting plastic pollution. It's estimated that each illegal leaves behind at least 6 to 8 pounds of trash on the US side of the border. Okay? I've got numbers here for you. So if you really want to fight it, you should probably fight the illegal immigration instead, because their trek over to the United States, because what happens, and I've talked to so-called refugees, illegal immigrants before, they'll get a ride from some sort of cartel member or somebody with big tattoos, and they'll pay him about $3,000 per head. That's the going rate to get one of these coyotes to drive you close to the border, but they won't drive you over the border. They'll get you close to the border, and then you have to walk over. And that walk, you've got all kinds of baggage, you've got all kinds of stuff on you, and estimates 6 to 8 pounds of trash that they'll leave on the US side of the border once they get here. To my knowledge, no one in Massachusetts has died from plastic water bottles in the ocean, but there were 2,357 deaths in 2022 in the state. Um, and those numbers only seem to be increasing due to drugs. Okay, so drugs, overdose deaths. Okay, so there have been deaths due to drugs. I don't know if anybody's died because a water bottle was in the ocean. I don't know. But this governor definitely has her priorities straight. The biggest enemy in Massachusetts that these Massachusetts residents are facing right now are definitely water bottles, not the drug crisis, not illegals that hurt the environment, and not the economy. Because if we ban water bottles, that might just save the world. All right, folks, I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, I got so much more chat with you about what did we talk about in the 7 o'clock hour here so far. Massachusetts, they're banning single-use water bottles. We also talked about the high school walkout. So these high school students staged a walkout over the district's woke bathroom policy. The girls were upset, and the boys, the young Chads, just wanted to protect them. So that was a nice story. Coming up, not so nice story. In Missouri, there's a high school that has awarded homecoming queen to a man again. So they've awarded homecoming queen to 2 men so far. The patriarchy exists. The patriarchy strikes again. They continue to take more things from women as this high school in Kansas City, Missouri crushes the lifelong dreams of girls who want to be homecoming queen. I'll be back. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We are going to be talking a little bit about the Missouri high school, the patriarchy striking again as men continue to take over women's spaces and crush the lifelong dreams of girls who want to be homecoming queen. Now, this didn't just happen once, but it happened twice at this high school. And you'd be shocked to find where the former male homecoming queen is now. He goes by Lena Lux, and he refers to himself as the Japanese Barbie of Kansas City. But he's actually in Chicago now. So you look him up on Instagram, and he dresses up in lingerie on Instagram and is a showgirl. I wonder where the Oak Park's 2023 homecoming queen is going to be in about 5 years. I'd imagine somewhere along the line of this other male homecoming queen. These people really think that because a man parades around in a dress, who they is somehow more deserving than an actual woman to be a homecoming queen and to get the crown. How does that really make sense? You're a man who parades around in your dress. Um, you're more deserving of that homecoming queen crown than that of a, I don't know, actual girl who has to deal with being a girl. Rather than focusing on the drug crisis, I talked about the Massachusetts governor deciding to really prioritize her time and fight the invisible enemy instead. And she announced this latest battle in the left wing war on plastic. So she is banning single use plastic bottles. That's what she's dedicating her time to. So we'll get to it. Plus, Illinois is being sold out. We'll chat a little bit about that as well. Governor J.B. Pritzker $8 billion to a CCP backed company. This is scandalous. An emerging scandal coming from J.B. Pritzker's latest giving of $8 billion to a Chinese company with ties to the CCP to build a $2 billion. So that math doesn't really check out. It's a $2 billion battery factory, but we're giving them $8 billion subsidy. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And also, did you guys hear about the first criminal to be let out on this Illinois no cash bail law? You won't believe what she did. I'll tell you, she's my age, which is incredible. Like when you really think about it, you're like, wow, this girl was 24 years old. Esmeralda Aguilar, she's 24 years old, charged with 4 felony counts of aggravated battery. So she pepper sprays 4 Chicago police officers. And if she's willing to do that to police officers, what is she willing to do to you? She was arrested, she was released and sent home. You can't make this stuff up. And why would you want to? That is the first criminal to be released under the no cash bail law. She's my age and she's pepper spraying police. Can't believe it. Illinois. Let's talk about this CCP technology company, Goshen. So some politicians are finally taking notice. I guess this has been around for quite some time. I didn't know because, of course, the media doesn't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. These politicians just kind of sweep it under the rug. But wirepoints.org, I found it, and Ted Dabrowski and I were talking about it this morning. This electric vehicle battery maker is linked to the Chinese Communist Party. And they recently made a deal with the state of Illinois to build a $2 billion plant in Illinois. Now, that's crazy that we're doing business with the CCP as the state of Illinois. But also, what's insane is the size of the subsidies that they're getting. I mean, we have to recognize that they are getting actually $8 billion, but this build out of this company is actually only going to cost $2 billion. So, a couple of members from the House Select Committee that have some cojones actually wrote to the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and they're demanding her and Congress to take immediate action to stop the CCP from exploiting U.S. taxpayer dollars. Okay, so we're paying money. We are literally selling out Illinois to the CCP. It doesn't get crazier than that, folks. So we've got a couple of Republicans. They addressed the matter very specifically. It's the Goshen Battery Production Project in Michigan. And the same issues are applying here for the Illinois project. The letter says this. They wrote it to Janet Yellen in Congress. It's perplexing, the letter says, that the US government would perpetuate China's domination of key technology by actively supporting these CCP-backed companies expanding their footprint in the US market, especially in a crucial sector such as lithium-ion battery manufacturing. Perplexing indeed. I don't know why we would be encouraging China's domination of key technology here. And in China, they kill babies. Okay, like actually, like they're born, they kill them because they want to reduce the population, and you're only allowed X amount of children. The CCP is truly evil, and I don't think that people understand how evil communism really is. Just talk to somebody who has fled from communist China. They'll tell you about how they're not allowed to eat certain things. They'll tell you how they're not allowed to talk ill of the government in any kind of way. If I was doing what I'm doing right now in China, I would be probably beheaded or thrown off a rooftop. In fact, it's so bad in China. They've got these high-rise, these huge skyscrapers, probably right outside the Goshen headquarters, the company I'm talking about here, probably right outside. They have suicide nets around these skyscrapers because people hate their lives so much there and hate working for these companies so much that they actually jump from the windows and these suicide nets actually catch them. If you want to take your own life, they won't even let you do that because they've prevented you from taking your own life, which good. I don't think anybody should be committing suicide, but these people really want to commit suicide that badly who work for companies like Goshen. There's suicide notes. I'd have to look into Goshen headquarters and where they're headquartered out of, and what kind of facility that they have over in China. But a lot of companies like Goshen, these massive companies, these people hate their lives so much that there are actually suicide nets outside of these skyscrapers. And that's not a joke. I'm not exaggerating. It's perplexing that we are allowing these CCP backed companies to expand their foothold here in the US market. So, equally perplexing is the sheer size of these subsidies. Goshen is qualified to receive $7.5 billion in federal tax credits over the 5 years here. And then an additional $536 million in of incentives awarded by the state of Illinois. So $536 million. That's equivalent. Like you total up the federal tax credits and then you total up the state tax credits, then you're getting a total of $8 billion. Now they say that the plant is going to hire on 2,600 workers. But I with this whole Elon Musk thing, and I'll get to this again. I touched it a little bit in the 6 o'clock hour. There's actually a lawsuit. So Elon Musk has filed a lawsuit against the Biden DOJ over their demand that SpaceX actually hire illegals. So we're starting to see. Are those 2,600 jobs actually going to go to Illinoisans? Probably not. If I had to take a guess, probably won't be going to Illinoisans. But yeah, I think that this is the biggest story of the day. Illinois mainstream media completely silent crickets. They've never reported on this. They've never criticized anything. The amount of tax credits coming to Goshen for this Illinois project, even at a national level, the only major outlet that I've seen cover the story is Fox News, and they just covered it. Okay, so it's not this big deal, but there's no other outlet that has covered this. There's not a whole lot of politicians talking about this. Where are the Illinois politicians on this? No reaction from Democrats or Republicans on this right now, and they were being really hush hush about it, to be fair. So I'm sure as news comes out about this, that there's going to be not a plethora, because probably in the state of Illinois, there's about 7 Republicans that I actually trust in the General Assembly. Not even trust entirely. If you really want to be, I'm being generous. There are 7 Republicans, maybe, that I trust in the General Assembly, and yeah, I would say that they probably don't know about it, but I'm sure we're going to hear more about it in the coming days and weeks. Now, this Missouri high school, I want to get to this because they crowned a male to be homecoming queen again. Oak Park High School has given this award of homecoming queen to a male student in a dress. The patriarchy striking again. This is just another attack on women. This is more and more of men taking things from women. At this high school, it's Kansas City, Missouri, and they're crushing the dreams of girls. It was always my dream to be homecoming queen. I think I got homecoming queen a couple of times, maybe, or something like that. When I was growing up, I can't remember, but yeah, it was always a lifelong, like, that was the thing for a girl growing up in high school. You know it. You wanted to be homecoming queen. You wanted to be on prom court. But this guy robbed that from women because he's a dude. Okay. And this is the second time the school has given that award to a boy at the Oak Park High School after he beat 4 females for it. So there were 4 females in the running for this homecoming queen. His name's Tristan Young. He wrote this on Instagram. He goes, "Thank you so much to Oak Park. I'm so overwhelmed with love and gratitude. And it's all you're doing. I am forever thankful that you've chosen me to be your homecoming queen." He goes, "I have a very difficult high school journey, but having the support of my friends, family in Oak Park has helped tremendously. I truly don't know where I'd be without it." That's really sad. Uh, you know what I mean? Like, it's incredible. They put all of their eggs in this basket. If I don't get affirmed, then I don't know where I'll be. If you don't affirm every little thing that I'm into, and if you don't agree with me on everything, then I just don't know where I'd be. I would, I truly don't know where I'd be without your affirmation. That's really sad. If you are throwing all of your eggs into this basket of getting support from other people, then it's tragic, really. And I'm praying for Tristan. I hope that he wakes up. But these photos posted by the school district on their school district Instagram page shows him in a long purple dress and a crown, and him just bending over in what appears to be excitement, like he's bent over in these pictures, like he's so excited. And he's also posed with biological females who lost the crown to him. So there's pictures of the females who lost the crown to this male. And I want to point this out because this is kind of interesting. The kid is now here in Chicago, I suppose. I checked him out on Instagram. This was the former homecoming queen. So like I said, there was a homecoming queen, a guy who was awarded this years prior. He goes by Lena Lux on Instagram, and he calls himself the Japanese Barbie, and he's a showgirl, and he dresses up in lingerie on Instagram. So I don't know where Oak Park's 2023 homecoming queen is going to be in 5 years, but we could probably guess that he's going to end up where this Lena Lux is at. And I'm sorry, that's really sad that you've been reduced to some sort of showgirl who dresses up in lingerie on Instagram, and I can't imagine that that's the life you wanted. Uh, but I don't know. I'd be interested to see where this kid ends up in 5 years. These people really think that if a man parades around in a dress, he's somehow more deserving of that crown than an actual woman. How does that make sense? I do have to take a break, but when we come back, I've got so much to go through. Actually, let's talk about something locally here. They weren't very transparent with you at the last McLean County board meeting. Uh, Evidently, your McLean County representatives don't want you to know much about Cassie Taylor and how she's getting paid quite a bit of money. And they approved the salary increase last Thursday or a couple Thursdays ago at the last county board meeting, but they didn't make mention of how much it was. And I thought that was kind of interesting. BLN News, Diane Benjamin calling it out. So we're going to talk about that, plus David Paul Blumenshine submitting an application for becoming the next County Board District 5 member. It all kinds of ties together. So You're going to want to join me on the other side. See me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I'll be back. Elon Musk filing this lawsuit against the Biden administration over the DOJ's demand that SpaceX hire illegals. It's really quite incredible how they are playing this, the DOJ. They've actually got this administrative hearing officer. Okay. Now, the administrative hearing officer is appointed by the Justice Department, and they're supposed to somehow convince us to believe that um, this guy is going to be impartial, that he will be an impartial judge who will fairly determine the merits of this complaint. So the DOJ, they filed a lawsuit in August against SpaceX, claiming that the company discriminated against asylees and refugees in hiring. Now, the lawsuit alleges that SpaceX routinely discouraged asylum seekers and refugees from applying and refused to consider them because of their citizenship status, which they allege is a violation of this so-called Immigration and Nationality Act. So they say that, you're discriminating against these asylum seekers. I'm not going to get into the actual definition of asylum seekers. Just know that probably 90%, if I was guessing here, of asylum seekers actually broke international law, and they're not technically asylum seekers because they broke international laws and they didn't seek asylum in the correct way. I'm just going to be honest with you. But Elon Musk, he is actually saying, like, dude, it's not me. It's you guys. There are government regulations out there that make getting a job in the United States pretty hard if you're an illegal immigrant here on a work visa or something like that. But also, if you're working on rocket technology that's considered advanced weapons technology for the United States government, there's a lot of things that you kind of have to do, like, I don't know, get permission from the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State in order to work on advanced rockets for the US military, because that's what SpaceX does. So Elon Musk, he says, I want to be clear. This is not out of some desire of SpaceX to just hire people with green cards. Okay, so the DOJ also said that SpaceX wrongly claimed that export control laws made it so where they could only hire U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. And there are things like export control laws, and they are meant to prevent advanced technical data from falling into the hands of adversaries and dangerous foreign governments. Um, what if those refugees and illegal immigrants are from hostile countries? Okay. How are we supposed to know what their intentions are? So Elon Musk was correct in saying, hey, there are things like export control laws that I have to follow here, dude. And he's saying it's not me, it's you. There's government regulations and there's laws pertaining to hiring asylum seekers, so-called asylees and refugees, when it comes to advanced technologies and U.S. weaponry. Okay, there's laws about that, and I'm just following the law that is already on the books. But they want to uh, get him on discrimination anyway. So the Justice Department is really claiming that because SpaceX attempted to prevent certain technologies from getting into the hands of U.S. adversaries, that they violated federal law somehow. What a clown show! This is a clown show. It was the Biden administration who opened the doors for literally everyone to come in, and now they want to force SpaceX to hire unvetted refugees. How does this make any sense? Oh, wait, it doesn't. Nothing this administration does makes sense, and it's always America last and migrants, refugees, illegal immigrants first with Sleepy Joe. I'll be back on the other side. This is The Morning Buzz. Good morning, folks. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We are going to be talking about Cassie Taylor. She actually got some money, a lot of money. She got an 11% pay increase this year, if you do the math. And unfortunately, we had to do the math on BLN News. That's Diane Benjamin. So she kind of worked this all out in her article, and I recommend you go to blnnews.com. There's a great blog there. Evidently, your McLean County representatives don't want you to know how much Cassie Taylor is paid. I actually don't mind Cassie Taylor. I like her a lot. I think that she's a good county administrator. She's decent. There's might be a better person out there. I don't know. I actually like her response and her ability to converse with our publication. She's always been very open um, to answering questions about things. And I have no issue with her getting a pay increase, okay? Inflation. I think that everybody in county government should be getting pay increases this year due to inflation, and that they should get a pay increase every so often. I'm not against that. However, I am against the amount, and I'm against the lack of transparency that comes with this. So, Cassie Taylor, she was named the administrator in 2021. And a salary increase was approved last meeting with no mention of how much the salary increase actually was. So BLN News, they did some digging on this, Diane Benjamin, and she FOIA'd for her salary increases and how much she's actually going to be getting. So the amended employment contract will take effect in February 2029. Her salary increases to $176,000. She does make less than the superintendent at the Unit 5 school district, which is shocking to me because here we have somebody in charge of, I don't know, an entire county and dealing with the day-to-day of the entire county. But then you also have a superintendent who gets paid way more than that. And she's in charge of one school district, which I just think is really funny. But we're going to talk about that here on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Well, this is important, and I highly recommend you go in to the YouTube channel, type my name in, that's Kat Peterson 929, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are going to be talking about the McLean County government because evidently your McLean County representatives, all of them, don't want you to know how much Cassie Taylor is paid. Because there was this salary increase, folks, and it was approved at the last meeting. And there was no mention of how much Cassie Taylor is actually getting paid. And this gets down to a lack of transparency in government. I have no issue with Cassie Taylor having an increase or getting a pay increase. Everybody deserves, I think, a pay increase. We're all dealing with inflation. When you have record high inflation, I think that, yes, wages should go up. Folks, she's getting 11%. An 11% increase this year. The average pay increase is about 3%. A good pay raise is about 4.5 to 5%. She's getting 11%. I'm talking about averages here. Why? And that's considered exceptional. Exceptional is 5%. Now she's at 11%. So we're going to be talking with Dave Paul Blumenstein, who's actually submitted to become the next County Board District 5 member. He submitted an application, and that vote on him, if he's to become the member, happens at the next meeting. We're back next. Whoa, I don't know about you, but did you get an 11% pay increase? Probably not. The average person gets about a 3% pay increase when they reevaluate it, and then a good pay increase is about 5%.
And cat.
Biden inflation. Uh,
Bidenomics, 11%.
yeah, 11%. So 5% increase, and I'm just pulling from national averages, state averages. That's exceptional. So what did Cassie Taylor do that was so, I would say, extraordinary to get 11%
What are
pay
the hard
increase?
numbers on that, cat?
Yeah, so we're gonna dig into it right over there. David Paul Blumenshine is joining me in studio. I told you guys he's coming in because he's gonna talk about his run for well, not run, it's an application. He is going to be looked at for the County Board District 5, and he could possibly be the member, likely be the next County Board District 5 member.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey. So let's break it down because I want your thoughts on this, being that you might potentially be a county board member. There was no mention of how much this salary increase was going to be last meeting at the county board meeting. And they made no mention of how much it was. Diane Benjamin did some digging and FOIA'd for the actual numbers on this. The amended employment contract will be effective February 2029. Her salary increased to $176,928, with increases of $16,500 in both 2025 and 2026 if her performance review, which we will never get to
Wait a
see.
second, Kat. You said 2029. I'm sorry, because our audience might be a little confused by, does the contract period run through till 2029? And the increase then happens in the first 2 years or staggers up to 11%?
It staggers up to 11%.
To get to 11% by 2029.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it's an employment contract, and if her performance reviews are good, if she scores like a 3.0 or higher, then she's promised those salary band increases from 2025, 2026, 2027,
2028.
incrementally.
Okay.
She will be getting an 11%, but they do it over like a
period of
contract
time.
over
Yeah.
a period of time. So overall, it's an 11% increase. But it's employment contract. I think that's massive. That's huge.
Yes and no. I mean, so in today, and I know we jokingly say Bidenomics, I mean, she's impacted, as we all are throughout McLean County. Every human being living and existing in our country right now and around the world. Inflation just isn't something that is affecting America right now. The world economy has actually gone in. They're all in on this whatever this is that they're doing, because we could spend days talking about how countries are building up and who's greatly impacted. The least of these, right? The poorest of the poor. The middle class is affected. And so obviously, as a county administrator, her position probably has come with a lot of other responsibilities, as most companies have. I know that the audience knows, if they were listening to the DPB show on Sunday, that my daughter's recently moved to Nashville. So here is a dynamic young person who's very employable. She can't even get the establishments, the businesses, the organizations that she's applying with to take time to sit down with her. Because why? They're in the field. They're in their jobs. They're filling in. They're backfilling where they can't find people. They need people. And we experienced that here at Great Plains Media too. In Cities 92. We talk to our businesses out there that are advertising, and some of them just can't take time to find new people because they're in the process of running their businesses because they don't have enough employees. So I guess I'm taking a different position, Kat.
That's okay.
No, I mean, it's one that I don't know what the responsibilities for Cassie are at this point. My assumption is, like everyone else, whether it's a deputy sheriff, whether it's anyone else working in the nursing home facilities, we're putting a lot of extra work on people and expecting them to maintain a level of performance. And it's not sustainable. I mean, we are looking at a time now where we have so few people supporting the entire economy, because whatever happened, contrary to the working numbers that they talk about, I don't see it playing out. I don't believe the numbers are truly there with employment.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not totally disagree. I think that she does deserve a salary increase. And yeah, if it staggers, it kind of equals out to maybe that 5% each year, which is on average. But here's my thing
Yeah,
is
but the bigger issue, and I think you're going to get to this.
the transparency.
Yep.
There was no transparency. They didn't
Exactly.
even bother talking
Yeah.
about it and how much that actually was going to be. And that was my issue was, hey, where's the transparency on this? And then I also kind of thought about it a little bit more this morning, and I'm like, wait a second. So Cassie Taylor, she makes 176,000. Then you look at Unit 5.
Are you talking about applying for the job? Is that what you're thinking, Kat?
No. Well, and I'm so confused about how Cassie Taylor, who's in charge of county administration, like countywide.
Yes.
Okay, that's McLean County
Mhm.
residents. I would imagine there's more McLean County residents than there are students in Unit 5. I don't know, maybe not
There are, yeah, overall.
overall.
But Unit 5 happens to be the biggest check that is cut by the county when they bring in tax revenues.
Mhm.
Unit 5 has the biggest operating budget out of the checks that are cut
Yeah.
from the tax base.
Well, why does Kristen Weichel get paid 200? Oh, over 200,000. I think she's getting close to 300,000 a year.
No, I don't think she's up there quite that high.
Maybe
yet.
not
No,
quite that
I
high.
mean, Barry Riley was about 245 when he left as the superintendent. Mark Daniels, prior to leaving Unit 5, had a stair-stepping on his contract, and he didn't quite get up above 200. Kristen came in at a little lower salary, and so she stepped up. But you're right. All of that, Kat, we can discuss the intricacies of pay raises and how we're funding government.
Mhm.
But it's the transparency. Let's have an open discussion about it so everyone knows where everyone's at. Now, there's a great app out there called Open the Books. I follow this guy and have since he launched his company. It's called openthebooks.com. It's an app out there, and you can see every public salary across the nation
Oh, that's pretty
in
cool.
any governmental body. And Adam Andrzejewski, I think he's been on your show, hasn't he? With Open the Books. I know that he's
Maybe.
been on like Fox News. I mean, he's pretty big. He's up in the Chicagoland area,
Mhm.
but he's gone out and he's created the software to create an app so he can track all of these salaries. So if you really want to know what any of your public officials are making, it's there.
Mm.
You can go and find out and see it, and it's in a nice user-friendly format.
Yeah. So, yeah, there wasn't discussion about it. It would have been great to have the McLean County representatives talk about how much that salary increase. Instead, they just kind of approved it and moved on. Now you've you've submitted an application
Yes.
to be the County Board District 5 member. And I love what your application says to inform and encourage participation in county governmental process. So I was telling folks earlier in the stream, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, you guys can see me there. Subscribe to Kat Peterson 99. You can also check out David Paul Blumenshine show. He's a Cities 92.9 radio host Sunday from 1 to 3. Now, you say to inform and encourage participation in county governmental process. So that is so you. I know you very well, David.
Yes.
Right? I personally was excited about county government or local government because of your show on the program at first, and then I met you out at this debate that you were having with Dan Brady at the Alum Center. I was covering it as a NPR reporter, and I was completely floored by what you were talking about, and I said, I want to be more involved, and that was sort of the catalyst. I was like, I want to be more involved. I want to understand why Republicans are so dead, because you guys were both Republicans. That's what I couldn't grasp. I was like, these guys are both Republicans, but fundamentally totally different candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've heard the talking points from Dan Brady time and time again. This is new. This is something new and exciting within local politics.
Yeah. Well, and I think, whether you like him or not, personally, he's a friend of mine, Stan Nord. Stan is a very intelligent, well thought person. It's not like he just randomly comes up with these things. He's been a very successful businessman. His family's very successful here and has been one of the pillars of McLean County. Stan does his research, and so he pushes the questions. People don't like to be, like this particular situation with Cassie. I mean, just get the information out. I remember that debate or forum held out at the Alumni Center where when I was running for the state rep seat of the 105th district, and it was my issue was never with Dan Brady, the person. It was Dan Brady, the politician, because even one of his answers was this long diatribe of state statutes and different House bills. And I even turned to the audience and I said, did anybody get what he just said?
Yeah, well, that's the moment where I was like, whoa, this
Yeah.
guy really wants people involved
Yes.
truly wants people involved in government.
Yes.
And not just people, but younger people. And Stan has that ability to inspire young people to get involved in the governmental process.
Well, and that's when I took out the Auditor General's report. And now the Auditor General is not a Republican, but this was during a Republican forum. And I pointed to it, to Dan, and I said, Dan, you keep making the statement that the budget is balanced and that it has been for 3 years, but I hear 100 and something pages from the Auditor General's report that specifically states that they don't have enough data from the agencies to give a report that's accurate. In fact, they would say that it's overreported in most cases or underreported, depending on the agency. And that's what I said, Dan, if the people responsible for creating the budget and walking around it, the administrators, if they're not even, if they don't have confidence in the numbers, how can politicians go out there and say it? Because politicians can say anything, right? And, I've learned that. That's been my battle cry. And you're right. It's about the people. If the people aren't informed, if the people aren't engaged, if the people aren't truly working with their representatives and their officials that hold office, then yeah. And if we're not truly bringing the information to them in an understandable manner, that's the downside, is sometimes you just get lost in all of the rigmarole.
And how poetic, John McIntyre, one of these guys who has been literally in politics forever, right? People know that he's been in politics forever. I'm not trying to rip on John or anything like that, but he's been in politics a long time. He was an elderly man and had to resign due to health concerns. There is a reason why younger people are stay away from politics, because it's not for them. They aren't inspired. And how poetic that you have submitted an application to become the County Board District 5 member, because I think that you have that ability to inspire young people to be a part of the process, to where we won't be in a situation where we find an elderly gentleman resigning due to health concerns, right? So how poetic. I think that and your daughter ran for that seat. You inspired her to run for that seat. She only lost by a few hundred votes. I think it's very clear your track record with the younger community and inspiring people to be involved in that governmental process. And that's something that we're truly lacking in McLean County.
The future of government is in the hands of the young people. And I'm saying 50 and under, preferably 40 and under. I mean, you can be in your 40s. Obviously, I'm not. I just had my 60th birthday. It's not what I want to do, but I know that I've always talked about this since day one when I came on the radio, when I opposed Dan Brady for state rep, was building a bench. We should be able to see more young people. Coach Mack, great guy. I happened to see him coach at 3 different levels, and he's a good human being.
Mhm.
And I truly just applaud him in his service to the county and to the people of McLean County. And I wish him the best, and I pray for him. I know that he's battling some health concerns. So I haven't been able to reach out to him yet, because all of this is fluid, right, Kat? Because there is some intentionality on the other side of the aisle. They're moving their pieces quickly, and sometimes we don't go on the offensive, and as Republicans. And that's what I encourage young Republicans to do, is to stand up, fight back. I know you and you have the copy of the book, Well
Yes.
Versed, right there. It's a book that you're
You
going to hear,
totally-
you're going to hear a lot. Yeah, I'll show everyone. This is a Well Versed. Kat and I are both going through a study on Well Versed, Biblical Answers to Today's Tough Issues by James Carlo. But here's a little bit about David Paul Blumen. Well, I guess we're going up against a break.
Yes.
I
We're
want
going to
to
come
talk
back.
a little bit about who I am versus what you're going to hear from the other side.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be screeching, their heads are going to be exploding. Get the defibrillators out, because it's not rational.
Yes. And I do want to play something on the other side. You mentioned James Garlow, and, I think you understand the purpose of government. And contrary to what the screechers, Crystal Label, Corey Byrne, and the like will say, is you've actually got the purpose of government. You actually have a good understanding of the purpose of government.
Yeah.
And I think that and I'm going to ask you this question. Do you agree with James Garlow's explanation of the purpose of government? On the other side, this is the Morning Buzz. Hey, welcome to this stream. Right there on your screen, you see David Paul Blumenshine. I know you're watching. Go ahead and smash that like button. Welcome to the Morning Buzz. We've got David Paul Blumenshine in studio. Tell me about why you submitted an application, David, to the County Board District 5 seat.
Well, Kat, we kind of covered it when we were on air. The thing is, we have not done a sufficient job of building a bench here in McLean County, or even in the state of Illinois, or nationally. I mean, well, on the federal level, I think it's a little better. I believe in government by the people, of the people, for the people, by the people, of the people. That's the constitutional perspective that I come from. It's about the people. So building a bench for future elections, and doing it with younger people, getting more people involved in the government. It is good to see younger candidates making application, getting petitions signed. We have some right now. Desi Anderson, she's in her 30s. She's running for the 91st state rep seat against Sharon Chung. Chuck Erickson isn't that young, but younger, running for state rep. Tyler Bayhan's talking about a run again for County Board District 2.
Ross Webb.
So seeing younger people, Erica Reynolds, obviously.
Youngest.
The youngest, right? State's attorney, Erica Reynolds, running for election because she was appointed. This is what it's about. We need more people under 50. Kat, I was up making application at the administration office of the county, McLean County Board. And I was looking at the wall of all the pictures historically of the boards, because they took photos of the entire board. And what always struck me is all of these people, as well-intentioned as they were, and I'm sure many of them are just real good people, solid people, citizens, they wanted to be involved in government. Unfortunately, the only person I saw, the youngest person I saw through all of those pictures, Adam Kinzinger. When Adam Kinzinger, I don't know exactly where he was in life, but I know that he was a young man. He was early 20s, maybe even 19.
Yeah.
So just out of high school, in college. So we need more of that. Not that we need more of Adam Kinzinger by any means. Maybe the Adam Kinzinger of the McLean County Board days and the Tea Party days, but not the Adam Kinzinger of just a year ago and everything that Adam kind of put out there. But that's specifically the reason is to represent people. You know, we've got a homeless population that's growing. We're going to have to deal with it throughout McLean County. It's just not in Bloomington, downtown Bloomington, or downtown Normal, uptown Normal. It's throughout the entire county. I mean, people are really struggling. In fact, I put in my application as the objective was debt-free, becoming debt-free as a county. That should be a goal always. It should be that in our state too. Zero-based budget. You've heard Darren Bailey talk a lot about it. We should act as if we're in a Dave Ramsey's class, because if not, it impacts we're seeing it systemically impacting everybody. Safe and affordable places, safe and affordable place to call home. Now that we're dealing with the no cash bail, we're going to have to solidify some of these processes, governmental processes, of making sure that we don't see a peak or rise in crime.
Which in Cook County, we have seen
Yeah.
bail reform laws play itself out. Pretrial defendants have actually committed more crimes with bail reform, 33% increase. These pretrial defendants who are out on not bail, but are out awaiting trial, they actually commit crimes in more increased rates, 33% crimes just in general. And then you look at violent, or I've got my numbers mixed up, 45% commit more crimes.
Yeah.
And then you look at the violent crimes, that's 33% increase.
Yeah.
So you've got all these increases in crimes in Cook County on just bail reform. Imagine what's going to happen when you take bail away entirely. And Erica Reynolds has talked with me about how she's going to have to try to get creative in being able to keep the county safe.
Yeah.
So
and
she's going to need a helping hand.
Safety is a big issue amongst the people of McLean County, the state of Illinois, and on the federal level. Safety. We want safe streets. We want safety in our homes. We want safety at the gas pump, meaning we don't want to overpay at the gas pump.
I'm so excited to get to James Garlow because, David, would you say that a purpose of government is to protect the citizenry?
I would say that would be, yes, that would be the protect the citizenry. That's the entire reason. The parchment paper means very little without the people.
Yes.
You can have all the rules and regulations, but if the people aren't represented, then, in fact, if it doesn't specifically follow the letter of the Constitution, then it's unconstitutional.
We're going to be back, folks. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Whoa! I can't believe that this is happening right here in the good old state of Illinois. Emerging scandal. Wow. Why in the world are we giving $8 billion to a Chinese company affiliated with the CCP? They have ties with the CCP, this company. It's called Goshen, and they want to build a $2 billion battery factory in Illinois. But we're giving them $8 billion because why? I don't know. That's your money. It's all subsidies. A lot of it is coming from the federal government tax credits, but some of it is coming from the state of Illinois. I think it's like over $500 million in subsidies are going to this CCP company. And I told you guys, I wouldn't be shocked to hear if Goshen is one of these companies that have headquarters in China, where there are actual suicide nets around the skyscrapers because people hate their lives so much in China. They are so oppressed that they feel the only way out is to commit suicide, but the Chinese government won't let them commit suicide even because they put these suicide nets around these headquartered companies. I'm not saying Goshen, I'd have to dig into the company where they're headquartered if they actually have suicide nets. A lot of CCP companies with ties to the CCP, and that's all of them in China.
Do you know what one of the leading states for Chinese companies is? It's Georgia. Governor Brian Kemp, a Republican, right? Quote unquote. You saw it. You saw it. The little bunny ears. Yeah. So guess who was on the World Economic Forum stage with Brian Kemp the last time? JB.
Pritzker. Jelly bean.
It's all about, it's all about the Great Reset. And please, if you don't believe that the Great Reset exists, Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum has written a book. You can go out to Amazon, you go out to Barnes & Noble and read it. COVID-19, The Great Reset. Obviously, he wrote the book. We're not telling you here from behind the microphone something that we're just making up. This is what we are entrusted to do, is to bring the facts, to bring the data. And I'm not saying we always get it right, because we don't, because it comes at us at such an alarming rate. And as I shared with you earlier in the show, Kat, that Auditor General's report from the state of Illinois on the budget,
Mm-hmm.
how can you have to have a degree, a PhD in economics to understand some of the language. This gets back to making government understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Government should be really simple,
Mm-hmm.
basic. See, if it's going to be by, for, and of, or of, by, and for, or whatever way you want to twist it, it should always be about the people. And the people should have a true understanding. But as our friend, God rest his soul, Rush Limbaugh used to say, it's the dumbing down of America. We have been on a plight to dumb down America. And if you caught my show, I had Paul Harvey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if
Right
I
with the devil.
and if I were the devil, 1965, 58 years ago, go and listen to that tape.
Mm-hmm.
That he had no idea what 2023 would look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that's what we're talking about today, the purpose of government. And I do believe that one of those purposes is to protect citizenry. And the way you do that is by informing them
Every
about
citizen.
government. Every citizen.
Every citizen.
Every citizen.
To the least of these.
So I want to ask you, we've got our well-versed book. We're both in this Bible study by James Garlow, and I really highly recommend this book, folks. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm a quarter of the way through it, but it's James Garlow. I'm going to play his tape here, David, and I want to ask you if this is your understanding of government, or if you don't agree with James Garlow's understanding of government. Here we go.
Is very clearly in the Bible. The purpose of government is to protect the citizenry. The purpose of government is to restrain evil. That's why we have government. And by the way, government doesn't give us our rights. Our rights don't come from the government. I don't go to the government and say, can I have the right to do this? Not at all. Our rights come from God. Our founders of our nation, they were so blasted smart. They understood that we have certain inalienable, that means rights that cannot be taken away, inalienable rights. And they were given to us by our Creator. I don't know why some people like to leave that phrase out. President Barack Obama, twice in 2009 and once in 2010, he actually left out that phrase. And again, more recently, left out the phrase by their Creator. That, by the way, is what makes America so exceptional.
So that's James Garlow. I only played a little bit of it. I'll share it out onto our social media if you guys want to watch the entire. It's about 7 minutes long. It's definitely worth the watch. David, your thoughts on the purpose of government?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are going to start blasting you and saying that you are not a friend of democracy, that you are anti-government, or I don't know what kind of lies they're going to start to say about you, but
I am anti anything that goes against the Constitution and the laws of the land. We are the party of law and order. I'm not saying we always get it right, because we don't. We are trying to become the perfect union, which means we are constantly working. You know, one of the things that he pointed out was to protect people from evil. You know, the Lord's Prayer says, and deliver us from evil, right?
Mhm.
Interesting. I happened to be on my bike ride yesterday on Constitution Trail. I love the Constitutional Trail, Friends of Constitutional Trail. And I came upon a friend of mine, a dear friend. He happens to be the US Marshal for our area. Yep.
Whoa.
You heard it. Yeah. He was a former friend from the days of Illinois State University. He was with the town of Normal. He happened to be the chief of the city of Bloomington at one time. He was with the state police department. And we got to talking a little bit as he was running and I was riding alongside him. We got to talking about some of the crimes, especially this heinous crime where these teenagers, these young teenage boys, ran down a bicyclist and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
They saw it as a joyride. You talk about a joyride? This isn't smashing mailboxes. They killed another human being
For fun.
for the fun, for the thrill of it. And, his statement was he never gives up on the young people, but he said there are certain situations, especially in some of these execution style murders of police officers, that how do you rehabilitate somebody like that? He said, because sometimes evil has consumed a person. It's not necessarily mental illness. I know that tends to be, well, yes, no one in their right mind drives their vehicle into somebody on a bicycle.
Mhm.
We can all probably agree to that.
Yeah.
There's some type of dysfunction mentally when you think that is okay.
Yes.
And so the point being is this this book study we're going through, we have a foundation.
Mhm.
It used to be the Bible. Then it became the Constitution. Now I think they work hand in hand. Once again, we know this
Mhm.
from our
Well,
founding
and
fathers.
you bring this up, this evil. There's people in government who won't recognize that evil exists. And as James Garlow said, the purpose of government is to protect its citizens and to restrain evil. You can't eliminate it because it exists.
No.
But there's people in government who don't even recognize that evil exists. Humans are not inherently good. So the problem with, I'm just going to say it, Democrats or left wingers, they don't recognize that people are not inherently good. They say if we throw enough money at it, they'll get good. Or if we give them jobs, then they'll be good. If we do all of these different things, then eventually human beings will be good. But that's just not true. Humans are also not inherently
Yeah.
evil, but they're good, and their sin
That's right.
creates evil things from happening, or creates evil things happening.
Unfortunately, as I've said many times on my show, Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz were talking about this. Bernie Sanders lists a whole plethora of things that we need to be better at as a society to become a more perfect union. The only difference between Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders on a plethora of different issues is that one believes that government is the solution. The government becomes the Lord of your life. And Ted says, no, it's the people. The people are the solution. Whatever that might be, you look at any of the examples that we are faced with right now, crime. How do you take young men? First and foremost, I don't even know if they were licensed drivers. I have to believe, hopefully, they had at least a driver's license,
Yeah, they were 17 and 18.
a legal right to be on the road. And how do you take them to another level of existence? Because surely, and I keep pointing back to Paul Harvey, please go out, if I were the devil, and listen to the 1965 transcript of his orator. He orates the if I were the devil, and listen to his words of what we've become. I mean, we were that then 58 years ago. What are we today?
Mhm.
What are the seeds we've planted in people's hearts and in their minds? Kat, I want to get to this before we get much further along in the hour and towards the end of the show. But you're going to hear a lot of things out there on the streets about DPB. And truly, I honor that. I really do. Because if you don't have enemies, then you must not be engaged in the process of good.
Mhm.
You're going to always have the detractors. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the summary of my qualifications. I currently hold the vice chair position for Normal through the McLean County Republican Party. I was the state director of election integrity with Bailey for Illinois, regional campaign coordinator for Bailey, Illinois. I've been a leader, teacher, team member, speaker at the Great Banquet, Cresceo program, Chrysalis program. I was candidate twice for a failed candidate, by the way. Yes, I'll point that out. I wasn't successful. Failed candidate for the state representative seat of the 105th district, which currently now doesn't really encompass the area that I ran for. I was the campaign manager for Jason Chambers, McLean County State's attorney. Jason is now a judge in a circuit here around Illinois. I've done prison ministry through the Cresceo program. I've been the lay director of a Teens Encounter Christ program, assistant lay director. I've dealt in youth ministry and Christian formation programs. I've done fundraising for a church that I attended. So that's a little bit about me. I've worked in Unit 5 schools in their transportation area with the Vocational Transition Assistance Program. They call it VTAP. It's predominantly young people like we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they might be experiencing some type of delayed hereditary dysfunction. They might have autism, but they're they're people who can truly be productive in society, and they're looking for a way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an avenue for that. But working with those folks, I've held a real estate broker's license in the state of Illinois for 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
going on 30 years. I think that next year will be my 30th year, so 29 years. So I'm versed in all things real estate. It's something that I kind of came by through legacy. My parents were both in real estate, and I took that on. My degree was in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I went to both Lincoln College and I went to Illinois State University, Lincoln College back in the day when Lincoln College was around. And then I started working on my master's in special education. So I know that once again, I talked about this on my show, Kat. What is the statement of life? You know, and I think it is a matter of your friendships that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And no man is a failure if he has friends. I found that out here just recently.
Mm-hmm.
My wife gave a surprise birthday party, and I was taken back. I was very humbled by it. It was amazing to see people from throughout the state come on a Tuesday night to one of our local tap rooms, Keg Grove. I will give them a shout out. To celebrate 60 years of DPB, right? And that says something, if ever you're wondering where you are at in society or in the culture, look around at your five, or you don't even have to look at your five friends, because you show me your five friends, the five people who are the closest to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll show you your future. That's a statement.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to share with young people. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and David Paul, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to continue the conversation about how it's almost poetic in a way. You trying to fill the county board District 5 seat, and I agree with you in your friendships. I mean, just look at the friendships that you've created. Look at the young people you have inspired.
Mhm.
And it's poetic in a way because John McIntyre had to resign due to health concerns that probably come with age, right? And was
Mac had many friends.
yeah,
Coach Mac was a legend in McLean County.
yeah, and he provided a bunch of service. It's time to build that bench, and I think
That's
that
right.
you're the one to do that.
He did it his whole life. That's what Coach Mac did,
Mhm.
is he built young people up.
Yeah, yep. All right, we're going to be back. This is the Morning Buzz. See us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. This is the Morning Buzz. I haven't played hairy legs in such a long time, David Paul Blumenschein. I got hairy legs. Yes, President Joe Biden, now president. I like to call him former Vice President Joe Biden. Respect the office. He actually did say, I like it when little children come up and pat the hair down on my legs in the pool. Yes, I'm quoting Joe there. Hairy Legs, one of my favorite songs. David Paul Blumenschein joining me in studio talking about how he has put in an application for the County Board District 5. Crystal Abel's not happy.
No, and I get it. I understand when you believe wholeheartedly in a different way of living,
Mhm.
your ideology, if you're affiliated with the Democratic Socialist of America, if you're constantly out there negotiating and trying to work the concept of really an unconstitutional perspective on a way of life.
Mm.
That's part of it. I mean, in order to change the Constitution, you have to gather enough people that are willing to do that. I just want to be someone that lives by the law of the land.
Mhm.
As our friend from Well Versed said, we're endowed by our Creator
Mhm.
with these rights. They didn't come from anyone. They didn't come from the McLean County Board. They didn't come from the General Assembly of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, the governor, or Joe Biden, the president. They come from God.
Mhm.
That's our Creator, God, our Creator. So that's what I want to protect and defend. The Constitution of the United States of Illinois, I want to defend that. I want to be a representative of the people, because we've got plenty of problems and they're not getting better.
Yeah.
If the liberalism of today was working, this is a Dan Bongino line, then why isn't it working? I just was reading, you look in Tennessee, Memphis mayor is a Democrat. Nashville mayor is a Democrat.
Yeah, because
All of these metropolitan areas are run by Democrats.
Uh-huh.
And yet everything is chaos in their city.
Well, and you say Democrats. I think that these people just truly don't believe in that principle shared by James Garlow, is that you, in your role of government, are to be a restrainer of evil, and that evil actually exists, and you have to be a restrainer of that evil and recognize that it exists, and that you have to restrain it. I don't think that we have a whole lot of people at the local level, federal level, state level, that actually agree with that. And you view me as not just a constituent, but as a daughter of
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
So when you have people serving in government who actually believe, hey, this is not just, a human, this is somebody who is loved by God, then you're going to serve that person in a much different way.
Kat, just real quick. In days gone by, we on the McLean County Board, we had some very dynamic human beings that weren't Republicans.
Mm.
George Gordon, one of my favorite professors at Illinois State University, taught my Poli-Sci 105 class. Great mind, really logical in his arguments. Paul Segabiano, just a dynamic contributor to McLean County. You look what he has done with the youth programs here locally. They have the Knockers. Shout out to the Knockers, Junior Football League. There are Democrats from days gone by that I know are unsettled by what has transpired and where we're going. The McLean County government doesn't deal with a lot of the social issues of life that you deal with at the state representative level, or on a federal level. What it deals with is people.
Mhm.
Specifically people, whether it's the nursing home, whether it's the programs in McLean County, whether it's providing to make sure that the funds move from the taxing body to the purposed area, whether that be the schools or the water districts or things like that, the township districts. But they spend the people's money. That's the people's money. And we've got so many issues that are, McLean County is a great county. It's weathered most everything that has happened in other areas of the state.
Mhm.
But we're seeing a trickling of it, right? We had the gentleman on that came here from oh gosh, Romania,
Mhm.
through the open border.
Mhm.
And that has impacted our community. It's here. We kind of don't like to tell the story, but we're seeing it manifested
Mhm.
right here on the streets of Bloomington Normal and the areas beyond. Um, these are the issues we've got to deal with, and nobody's talking about it, and we need to start talking about it. What
Yeah.
does the future look like? What is the forward-looking growth plan to McLean County and the rest of the state, and how that plays in the state of Illinois?
Well, and then you also bring up your real estate experience, which I think is crucial, considering things that are going on globally. Really, it's you'll own nothing and be happy. I mean, we have local people here who are saying that young people don't want to buy houses.
No,
They don't want ownership.
I wouldn't recommend young people buying in this grossly overinflated market.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. You know why? Because we're not doing anything to fix it. Affordable housing, I remember another candidate that was running for the board who was really big into affordable housing. I can't remember his name. He had the interesting name, young man,
Mhm.
but he was spot on. We're raising the level of affordability of home ownership to a place where you're going to have to rent.
Oh, well,
And then you can't even afford the rent.
yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. Folks, we've got to go. But we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. This has been The Morning Buzz. If you've missed any of the show, you can find it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you, David, for coming in.
Yes.
All right.
Nope.
Bye-bye. I love you guys.